A black hotel. Maid answered a call in Dutch right in front of a millionaire. The next day, he sent for her. Zoe's cell phone rang while she was scrubbing the floor in the fancy lobby of the Grand Plaza Hotel. Normally, she wouldn't even dream of picking up during work hours. Rule number 1 from Manager Richards, especially for us cleaners. But she clocked the number. It was the university. After 6 failed tries to snag a scholarship for her master's in linguistics, this call could flip everything. One SEC, she muttered to herself, ducking behind a big marble column. That's when her whole life flipped in like 10 seconds flat. Zoe Johnson. She answered low-key, praying nobody noticed her with all the guests strolling through. The voice on the line came through in perfect Dutch. Professor Van Ton from the University of Amsterdam. Zoe slid right into it, her pronunciation smooth as hell, chatting about her application for the international program. Mijn motivatiebrief was te laat in mogelijk heb ik 2 weken geleden verzonden, she explained, stressing that her motivation letter supposedly never made it on time. That's when she felt the vibe shift, dead silence around her. She looked up. Richard Coleman, the billionaire who owns the whole chain, was standing a few feet away, staring at her with straight-up shock. Next to him, Manager Richards, eyes blazing. Zoe swallowed hard. I gotta go. Ik bel je later. Sorry. She rushed in Dutch and hung up quick. Johnson. My office. Now. The manager's voice sliced through the air. That walk down to the tiny basement admin office felt like forever. Zoe could feel her co-workers' stares, some feeling sorry for her, others low-key happy she got caught. At 29, she was the only black woman in housekeeping with a college degree, something Richards conveniently forgot all the time. You know the rules, Johnson. No phones during working hours, especially in public areas. Richards snapped the second the door shut. And talking in, what was that? French. Dutch. Zoe corrected on instinct, then instantly regretted it. I don't care if it was Martian. What I care about is that Mr. Coleman, the owner, saw a cleaning lady blowing off her job to yap on the phone in the lobby. The unfairness burned like acid in her chest. The white front desk girls took personal calls left and right, 0 consequences. But Zoe knew the deal. Same old pattern. I'm putting you on convention center bathrooms for the next 3 months. Maybe there you can practice all the languages you want without embarrassing the hotel. Zoe's stomach dropped. Convention center meant double shifts cleaning up after corporate drunks, no overtime. Richards go to punishment for anybody who stepped out of line. You can go, and be grateful you're not fired. That night was brutal. In her tiny apartment, she shared with 2 nurse roommates. Zoe cried quietly, staring at her linguistics degree and international certs hanging on the peeling wall. 6 years cleaning rooms, saving pennies for a master's, sending resumes that ghosted her after in-person interviews. Next morning she showed up early, head high, determined to stay professional even though it hurt. Then the front desk phone rang. Zoe Johnson, please, Jennifer the head receptionist called out. Human Resources wants you right away. HR was up on the top floor next to the exec suites. Straight up forbidden zone for housekeeping. In the elevator, she felt invisible like always, surrounded by suits talking million-dollar deals who didn't even see her. Johnson, the HR director said the second she walked in. Please have a seat. Zoe sat stiff, bracing for the axe. Termination, probably. Mr. Coleman has requested a meeting with you. The owner's office was bigger than her whole apartment. Richard Coleman, 45, famous for flipping failing hotels into 5-star gold mines, was looking straight at her. Dutch, French, Italian, and Mandarin, correct? He asked flat out, flipping through an open folder. Zoe blinked. How did you? Your resume. I asked HR for it right after I heard you yesterday. Honors degree in linguistics from Georgetown. Fluent in 6 languages, 2 of them Asian. And you've been cleaning my hotel for 6 years. What Zoe didn't know was this moment wasn't random. What nobody in that hotel suspected was that the Dutch phone call hid a much bigger story. An unlikely connection that would not only change Zoe's life, but blow the lid off a system of discrimination that had kept crazy talent buried behind mops and bleach for years. If this story of workplace prejudice fires you up, sign up to find out how one simple call in a foreign language turned into the spark for a comeback nobody, not even the richest billionaire, saw coming. For a few seconds the office went pin-drop quiet. Zoe stood frozen, brain spinning. Richard Coleman actually knew who she was. Not just the invisible lady in the uniform everybody ignored in the halls. 6 years, Coleman repeated, shutting the file and crossing his arms. May I ask why a Georgetown-educated linguist is cleaning my bathrooms instead of doing international translations? Zoe took a deep breath. I sent 47 resumes to the International Relations Department of this hotel. All ignored. Tried for an internal transfer 12 times. Always denied. By whom? Manager Richards and Mr. Whitmore, Director of Operations. Coleman jotted the names down. No reaction. Curious. Whitmore constantly complains we don't have enough multilingual staff for international clients. His eyes narrowed. Especially Asian conferences. What he didn't say was he'd already noticed a messed up pattern. 3 months earlier, he'd quietly brought in a consulting firm to figure out why his East Coast hotels had crazy high turnover among qualified non-white staff. Zoe, I'll be blunt. Tomorrow a trade conference with Dutch and Chinese execs starts. I need someone fluent in both languages who gets the cultural stuff. And you want me to clean their rooms? Zoe couldn't hold back the sarcasm. Coleman gave a small smile. I want you to be our international relations coordinator for the event. Temporary. Salary $5,000 a week. Starting today. Zoe almost dropped her bag. That was more than 3 months' pay. Why me? There are hundreds of qualified people. Because I heard you speak Dutch like you grew up there. Because you have exactly what I need. And because I think something's seriously wrong in my company. An hour later, Zoe stepped into the elevator with a new badge and full system access. On her way to HR to sign papers, she ran straight into Manager Richards. The shock on the woman's face was gold. Johnson, what are you doing on this floor without a uniform? Ms. Richards, International Relations Coordinator. At Mr. Coleman's direct request. Richards went pale as hell. Impossible. You don't have the Georgetown. Fluent in 6 languages, including Mandarin and Dutch, Zoe cut in, staying calm and professional. My resume's been in the system for 6 years, along with my 12 transfer requests. While Richards fumbled for words, Zoe kept walking. In HR, she met an unexpected ally, Zoe Williams, new recruitment analyst who was actually excited. Zoe, finally. I saw your file when I started 3 months ago and couldn't believe someone with your quals was stuck in housekeeping. She spilled that she'd tried talking to Whitmore, but got shut down fast. That afternoon, prepping for the conference in the VIP room, Zoe spotted something messed up. The event docs had straight-up wrong and offensive Mandarin translations that could cause major diplomatic drama with the Chinese execs. She fixed them quick, redoing the welcome packets. How'd you know they were wrong? Coleman asked. He'd been watching silently from the doorway. The previous translation used terms that are offensive in formal corporate Chinese, Zoe explained. Whoever did this knows basic language, but zero cultural nuance. Coleman nodded slow. Whitmore swore he hired the best translators. Cost a fortune. He hired someone without checking credentials, Zoe said, pointing out a killer mistake in the partnership proposal translation. Next day the conference kicked off. Zoe moved through the execs smooth as anything, flipping between Dutch and Mandarin, connecting people in ways that usually took days. During a break, Whitmore, the operations director who'd never spoken to her in 6 years, came up with a fake-ass smile. Miss Johnson, I'm impressed. Richards clearly misjudged your potential. Thank you, Mr. Whitmore. It's wild how my resume saying I was fluent in Mandarin got overlooked, especially when the hotel dropped 50 grand on trash translation services for this conference. Whitmore's smile locked up. There must be some misunderstanding. I never received. I got delivery receipts for every email over the last 6 years, Zoe said calmly, including the ones flagging critical errors in the translations you contracted for Asian events. What she didn't say yet was that Zoe Williams had quietly pulled the translation contract records. The company belonged to Whitmore's niece. Zero real experience in formal Mandarin. Charging expert rates anyway. Worse. All their past translations had the same kind of errors that could have cost millions in lost deals. On day 3 of the conference, something crazy happened. One of the Dutch businessmen recognized her. Wait, aren't you the student who wrote that brilliant article on linguistic variation in international business? Published in the Journal of Applied Linguistics. Zoe nodded, shocked someone remembered. I've cited your work at 2 conferences, he said, dragging colleagues over to meet her. Coleman watched from across the room, clocking how uncomfortable Whitmore was getting. What the director didn't know was that while he smiled and chatted, Zoe was quietly building a case. Not just catching slip-ups, but exposing a whole system of discrimination and shady contracts that funneled money to unqualified people while burying talent like hers. What nobody at the Grand Plaza realized was that the black cleaning lady who answered a call in Dutch wasn't there by chance. Behind that one department switch, a plan was rolling out that would change Zoe's life and blow open discrimination that hit dozens of employees. The question wasn't if she could prove it anymore. It was how bad it would hurt when the truth finally dropped. On the morning of day, for the hotel was buzzing. Zoe's work had already locked in prelim contracts way beyond expectations. Walking through the lobby, she caught something off. Whitmore was escorting a nervous young woman to the exec elevators. "Miss Whitmore, your Mandarin translation is adequate," he said tight. "No need to worry." Zoe clocked the last name instantly. The girl was holding a folder labeled Final Translation, Master Contract. One quick glance as they passed confirmed it. Same damn critical errors were still sitting there in the text.mr. Coleman needs to see this, Zoe thought, rushing to the CEO's office. Coleman was going through some papers when she burst in without knocking. "Zoe, what's up?" "Whitmore's been swapping out my spot-on translations with crappy ones her niece did," Zoe said, shoving her phone with the screenshots in his face. "And yo, I got proof this has been happening for years." Coleman shot up from his chair. "You deadass sure about this?" "I got everything documented. Even better, I found records of crazy inflated payments to her translation company, 3 times what the market rate is, while people like me, who are actually qualified, kept getting rejected left and right." While they were talking, Zoe from HR came running in. "Mr. Coleman, sorry to barge in, but you gotta see this right now," she said, handing him a folder. "Hiring records for the last 5 years. Straight-up pattern of turning down qualified non-white candidates, especially women." Coleman flipped through the pages, his face getting harder with every sheet. The outside investigation caught a whiff of something. But this is straight-up systematic. Right then Whitmore strolled in without knocking, cutting them off. "Richard, the Dutch are ready to sign, but they're asking about some weird inconsistencies in the translations. Johnson must have screwed something up." Dead silence. Ice cold. Coleman walked real slow to the door and shut it. "Thomas, I'm looking at payment records for $50,000 for garbage translations while we got qualified people scrubbing toilets," Coleman said, voice scary calm. "Got an explanation?" Whitmore went pale as hell. "I don't know what you're talking about. We hire the best. Your niece Thomas Coleman cut in with 0 experience in formal Mandarin. She has a certification, fake." Zoe finished, slapping a printed email down on the table. "I just checked with Peking University. They never certified Ashley Whitmore." Whitmore gave Zoe a death stare. "You're nobody. A cleaning lady who thinks she can play with the big boys. PhD in applied linguistics from Georgetown," Zoe corrected, "chill as fuck. With 6 international publications, all in the HR files you've lost repeatedly." Thomas Coleman jumped in. "I've called an emergency board meeting in 30 minutes. By then I want her resignation letter on my desk." "You can't be serious." Whitmore laughed, all nervous. "Because of this, choose your next words very carefully," Coleman warned. 2 hours later the executive auditorium was packed. Every manager, supervisor, director, summoned ASAP. Front row, the Dutch and Chinese execs sitting there curious. Richards, the cleaning manager, looked lost, parked next to other department heads. Coleman stepped up to the stage, Zoe right beside him. "Today we uncovered a straight-up scheme of discrimination and nepotism that's cost this company millions," he said, dead serious. "For years, managers like Thomas Whitmore and Sarah Richards ran unofficial policies that screwed over our people and our profits." Slides started rolling behind him. Charts comparing employee qualifications versus actual positions, hiring and rejection stats broken down by race and gender, overpriced contracts tied to managers' family members. Ms. Johnson, who a lot of you only knew as the cleaning lady, saved us from a diplomatic and financial disaster this week, Coleman went on, by fixing translations that would have cost us millions in contract fuck-ups. The Asian businessman nodded. A few people clapped quietly. "As a result of this investigation, Thomas Whitmore has been terminated for cause," Coleman announced. "Sarah Richards is suspended pending full investigation into her role. And effective immediately, We're doing a complete audit of all hiring and promotions over the past 5 years. The room went pin-drop quiet. Richards looked ghost white, staring at the floor. And finally, Coleman said with a small smile, "I'm proud to announce that Dr. Zoe Johnson is now our new Global Director of Internal Communications, overseeing all multilingual operations." The place exploded, some hesitant claps, a lot of real ones, especially from the cleaning crew in the back who were crying and cheering. As she stepped off stage, Zoe saw Whitmore getting walked out by security, face twisted in useless rage. As he passed her, he muttered, "You won't last a month." Zoe just gave him a calm smile. In the pocket of her new blazer was a recording device, the same one that caught every threat and racist little comment Whitmore whispered the last few days while he scrambled to cover his ass. That night in her new office with the city lights outside, Zoe finally let herself cry. Not sad tears, deep, releasing tears. 6 years cleaning hallways while her talent got buried. 6 years of "your resume must have gotten lost," and "maybe you're not a good cultural fit." She picked up the phone and called her mom, who'd sacrificed everything for her education. "I did it, Mom," she said, voice cracking. What no one at the Grand Plaza Hotel could have predicted that day was that the real transformation was just getting started. While some execs were still reeling from watching old privileges crash down, others were already seeing the truth. Real talent, once it's free, doesn't just fix old wrongs, it rewrites the whole damn future. Whitmore's fall and his discriminatory bullshit was only chapter 1 in a total shakeup that would rock not just that hotel, but the whole American hotel industry. And it all kicked off with one simple phone call in Dutch. 6 months later, since that crazy day when Zoe answered a call in Dutch in the lobby of the Grand Plaza Hotel. What started as one person getting justice had turned into a quiet revolution across the American hotel game. Zoe's office on the 32nd floor now looked out over all of Manhattan. A small plaque on the oak door read, "Dr. Zoe Johnson, Vice President of Diversity and International Relations." The salary was 5 figures a month, not a year, but the real juice wasn't the title or the money. Restructuring committee assembled and waiting. Dr. Johnson, her executive assistant and close friend Zoe announced, "All regional managers are on the conference call." Zoe nodded, took a deep breath, and walked into the conference room where Richard Coleman and the board were waiting. It was the final presentation day for the Invisible Talents program. Her own baby, she built to find and promote qualified people who'd been overlooked across the whole hotel chain. The pilot results blew past every expectation we had. Zoe started, bringing up the numbers. In just 6 months, we found 147 employees with real skills in languages, finance, management, tech, people stuck way below their level. 83% of them Black, Latino, or other minority groups. Coleman nodded, proud. The program was his first condition when he greenlit her promotion, not just fixing her situation, but burning the whole broken system down. Most impressive, Zoe went on, is the money side. Outsourced translation costs dropped 78%. International guest satisfaction jumped 42%. Diversity ratings now top of the industry. All while giving real shots to people already on payroll. Across the country, Sarah Richards watched the broadcast from a shitty little hotel in California. After the full investigation, she dodged firing by taking a demotion and transfer. Now she ran laundry at a budget property, a daily slap for someone who used to reject talent just because of prejudice. Next phase includes an internal mentoring system, Zoe explained. Every promoted talent commits to spotting and lifting up someone else with potential. Thomas Whitmore wasn't on the call. After getting canned, no luxury hotel would touch him. Discrimination and embezzlement allegations had blackballed him for good. Word was he was night manager at some sketchy roadside motel in Arizona. His niece Ashley had to pay back all the inflated money, do a professional ethics course, and, ironically, was now studying Mandarin on a scholarship from the Coleman Foundation for Inclusive Language Education. In closing, Zoe said, looking straight into the camera that fed every property in the chain, "I want to share something personal." She paused, letting the quiet sit. "When I was a kid, my mom worked as a maid in a hotel just like this. She had a college degree but never got a job in her field. She always told me, 'Zoe, no matter how much they try to make you feel invisible, your worth doesn't depend on their recognition. Zoe took a breath, holding it together. My mom passed away thinking some doors would never open for people like us. She never got to see this moment, never got to see her sacrifice mattered. Around the room, a bunch of execs, many newly promoted through the program, quietly wiped tears. The real power of a company isn't how much money it makes. It's the potential it unleashes. For decades, the hospitality game, like so many others, buried insane talent under uniforms, acting like people with certain skin tones, accents, or backgrounds were only good for invisible jobs. Coleman stood up clapping, then the whole room, then hundreds watching remote. Later that day, an envelope landed on Zoe's desk. Inside, a postcard from Amsterdam and a letter from a University of Applied Linguistics offering her a visiting professor spot. Professor Vanton, the one who made that Dutch call 6 months back, had watched her rise. Funny, Zoe thought looking out at the city. I basically have Richards to thank for punishing me that day. If she'd just given me a warning, I might still be cleaning the same rooms, my degree collecting dust. Next day, Zoe officially launched a scholarship fund for hotel employees and their kids, partly funded by her new salary. First recipient, daughter of her old cleaning coworker who wanted to study hotel management. What started with one phone call in Dutch had sent waves way beyond that hotel, way beyond the industry. The message was loud: talent is everywhere. What's missing is opportunity and recognition. Real justice isn't just punishing discriminators. It's rebuilding systems so prejudice can't hide. Zoe's sweetest revenge wasn't watching her enemies fall. It was seeing hundreds of people like her finally rise. If this story hit you and made you think about how quiet prejudice kills amazing talent, drop a comment and subscribe for more stories about people turning injustice into real change. After all, the biggest lesson Zoe gives us is that true greatness isn't beating the odds by yourself. It's making sure the doors stay open for everybody who comes after.